This video is powered by the pros at Pascal Air Plumbing and Electric. Arkansas owned, Arkansas operated. GoPascal.com.
Welcome in Richard Davenport this morning. Arkansas Democrat-Gazette, Whole Hog Sports. Richard, I'm curious, when teams go on the road and there's attendees, recruits that are watching the home team, how many times, and not just at Arkansas, but how many times have you seen those said players become more interested in maybe the winning road team?
Hang on, Richard may not have heard you. That'd be my fault. Richard, good morning. Can you hear us now?
Yeah, I can hear you guys.
Ask your question again there, Ty. Old Kraft had a E1 here.
Oh, my bad. All right.
I didn't have you until. So.
I got you. Hey, Richard, this is a setup this weekend, 11 o'clock. You're the road team. This is a good setup for you. I'm curious, when teams are hosting players and recruits and they're there to watch that said team, but the opposing road team comes in and wins, does that player that was watching the home team become suddenly more interested in the team, the visiting team that beat them?
Well, I think it piques their interest a little bit, yeah. And a lot of times, I'm not going to say a lot, but quite often Arkansas and Auburn compete for the same player, especially in Alabama. So I think that's definitely something that would be a plus. And when you're going to a home game of a team that's recruiting you, and say Arkansas goes in there and pretty much takes the crowd out of the ball game. I mean, that's impressive. I would tend to think for a prospect. So yeah, I think it's a plus if Arkansas goes in there and now is it going to sway kids' minds and masses? No, but I think it could plant a seed and kind of help Arkansas going forward in recruiting that kid.
Richard, Auburn's been to 2 national championships in the last decade or so. They've been to 3 or 4 SEC championships. How far ahead is Auburn right now from a brand standpoint than Arkansas? Has that gap shortened a little bit in the last couple of years?
I think if it's shortened just a little bit, because obviously I think Arkansas fans see Arkansas and Auburn as pretty much equals or close to it. But reality says otherwise. I was just looking at SEC championships that Auburn has won since Arkansas has entered the SEC. They have 8. Arkansas doesn't have any other than SEC West championships, and they have been few and far between. Then you add in the national championships, most recently in 2010. Arkansas is obviously in 64. And I think they have 2 Heisman Trophy winners, I believe. Arkansas, none. I think there's a sizable difference in how, nationally people look at each program. And, if you look at the numbers, Auburn's a better program.
Richard, the coaches went out on the road last Friday as Arkansas had the bye week. We know that Coach Pittman was at the Cabot-Bryant game, 1 versus 2, huge high school game at our state. What were the dividends that you can tell so far from last week? We know where Coach was at, maybe some of the other games that were attended around the country, not just in our state, and what you think might come of all of those visits and who they were looking at.
It's always a big deal for kids. They feel like a priority when you come to their school and visit their school. And now the coaches weren't able to interact with the kids other than maybe in passing, say hi or whatever, something like that. But they couldn't have any conversations. But it's kind of funny. Sometimes I'll be reaching out to kids and they're a little slow in getting back to me. But when a coach visits them, they get a little excited and they're easier for me to contact. So I think that does add a certain degree of excitement and appreciation also that the coaches came by and visited them. And obviously Coach Pittman was out there. So it's a big deal for the kids.
I guess we should also point out, for those that don't follow it closely, it wasn't as though they just went to one game each and that was it. They went to schools during the day, visited different schools for games at night. I guess in some cases, maybe some of the coaches saw 2 different games and watched a half at one place and down the road a different game.
Yeah, Coach Pittman in particular, he did that. He was at the Mills Mills game the first half, and then he went to Bryant and Cabot for the second half. I was at the Bryant game, and he showed up a little after I believe the second half started, and he stayed till the entire game, and that was a big deal for T.J. Lindsey, who's the 2024 defensive lineman for Bryant, who's a major target for Arkansas.
We're talking with Richard Davenport, Arkansas Democrat-Gazette, and Whole Hog Sports this morning. Staying within Central Arkansas, Richard, it looked like Walker White got offered by Alabama yesterday. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, it's not a big surprise. I've been hearing some rumblings that Alabama's interest in Walker was pretty serious, because he attended a camp back in Tuscaloosa back in the summer, evidently threw well and impressed Coach Saban, and obviously he pulled the trigger and offered him. And the thing with Walker, I think he's still kind of a work in progress, but his upside is about as high as any quarterback probably in the country, in my opinion. That's just me. But he still has to continue to work on his accuracy and stuff like that. But I think he's improved in that area. Athletically, he's what you're looking for. He's a legitimate 6'3", 6'4", 215, 220. Probably he ran a 4.55 at the Ole Miss camp over the summer. So he's got all the tools you're looking for, and obviously the result is a good offer, a very good offer list, and it got much better with Alabama.
Richard, you were speaking to players that Arkansas competes with Auburn in Alabama. The late L.T. Tenpenny, Lane Hatcher. Is there another Arkansas kid or two that I'm missing that Nick Saban has offered scholarships and gone to Alabama that I'm not thinking of?
Josh Frazier from Springdale Harbor. He was one, and I'm sure there's some others, but Josh is probably, I'm thinking, is the last one that off the top of my head that I can remember. I mean, Jordan Jones from Smackover was offered by Alabama. Obviously, he went to Arkansas, but I think Josh is the last one I can remember.
Yeah, I mean, I can't remember one though that comes to mind that in the Saban era, at least, that's went there and been a star that Arkansas absolutely missed on.
No, you as far as a star at Alabama, no, but obviously probably could have helped Arkansas in ways, no doubt. I think if Tenpenny would have been at Arkansas, I think he probably would have had a better career. I think the same could be said for Josh Frazier. Obviously the depth at Alabama is what makes them Alabama, and it's what Arkansas is trying to achieve in creating better, depth and talent. I think it's something that obviously, you can look at and you could probably sell, if you're Arkansas. So when's the last time a guy from from Arkansas went down there and had a really good career, and that could probably get some people's attention.
And what I also look at with Bama is when they offer an in-state kid and Arkansas hasn't offered yet, it almost forces the hand of the university. And you think about certain kids, in particular at the quarterback position, and some that have been offered by Bama that end up coming to Arkansas. I think it's just a bad look if Bama's offering and you're not. And I think it was Ty Story was offered by Arkansas second. There's been some other quarterback situations, and you probably remember the details. I know Tyler Wilson would have been another one where Bama comes in and offers, and Arkansas, who may be a little more patient on an in-state kid, kind of gets their hand forced a little bit.
Yeah, that can happen, especially people, the pressure, the in-state pressure from alumni, from boosters. You know that they're reaching out to the athletic program saying, well, why hasn't this kid been offered? Here's a national, probably the best program in college football history offered, and why isn't now Arkansas offered? That's just a given. And we've talked about so many times why Arkansas may be slow to offer kids in-state, and just because you have to be 100% certain in that offer. you can't, necessarily pull back from that kid, or you can, but PR-wise, it's not a good idea to do that on a consistent basis.
Yeah, you better be certain when the University of Arkansas makes that offer. All right. Week 9 of the high school season. We got 2 weeks left, 9 and 10, then the playoffs. What are some key games and some key players you'll be zeroed in on here these last 2 weeks of the regular season?
Well, even though I was at the Bryant-Cabot game on Friday, the Bryant-North Little Rock game, I think, is another one Arkansas fans could find interesting because you got one commitment in Quincy Rhodes, and you got T.J. Lindsey, who we talked about earlier, and just obviously with Bryant just continuing to rolling, and North Little Rock's kind of turned the corner a little bit and started playing better. So I think that's one game definitely paying attention to.
I think a lot of people will be watching that PA Greenwood game this week. That's a matchup everyone's kind of waited on, and I think there'll be people coming to South Sebastian County that have no direct interest, but that should be an entertaining game down at Greenwood this Friday.
Absolutely. Two of the best programs in Arkansas high school football history, and both of them, I forgot about that game, and that's a good point. I mean, I think that's probably going to be the game of the week if you're looking for one particular game.
Richard, before we get out of here, you and I were texting a little bit last night, and you wanted me to bring up the fact that Musselman sure seems to be making waves and recruiting right now with some high-caliber talent, seeing what Anthony Black, Jordan Walsh, and Nick Smith did in their exhibition game. What have you been hearing lately with top-end basketball recruits?
Well, I mean, it's just consistent. The latest guy that I talked to, 5-star Trenton Flowers, in the 24 class, talked to him, and I didn't even bring it up. I mean, I asked him about what interests him about Arkansas basketball, and he just said how they basically recruit at a high level. He knows that. He knows Nick Smith. He knows Jordan Walsh. He knows Anthony Black. Guys, high caliber, elite type prospects, especially in basketball. And I think it's true in all sports, in football too, and baseball, what have you. But in basketball, all these guys know one another. It's a small world because they compete against one another, especially during the spring and summer. And also, I think a high caliber kid thinks, well, that team is worthy of me, especially when other guys of his caliber is attending that school. I think that kind of opens up eyes. And then the NBA, we've talked about it so many times, the NBA angle with the coaching staff, Coach Musselman, that's another big deal with kids. So there's so many things going in the right direction for Arkansas, and potentially, with this season, how it could maybe turn out. Who knows? I know a lot of people are thinking Final Four or bust, and that may be the case. I don't know, but there's no guarantee of that. But, I mean, if they finish strong and do very well, I mean, it's just going to create even more momentum recruiting-wise.
Football is back, and BetOnline remains your number one source for all your football betting needs this season. You'll find the latest odds, matchup info, player news, and game trends. And as your continued source for all sports wagering info, BetOnline features live betting, free contests, live scores, and giveaways all season long. Always the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports and events like MLB, MMA, tennis, boxing, and even golf. Head to betonline.ag to join and receive your 100% welcome bonus with your first deposit. Make sure to use the promo code BELIEVE to receive your rewards. That's BLEAV. Bet online, where the game starts.